Okay, Panzer Command, East Front GTS, kinda. This is the parent of the Immaculate Conception that became GTS, because as far as I know, there was no other. There was this. So far, I'm like going, why wasn't there more of this more recent than GTS? But I haven't played it yet, really. So the Germans have to take some hill hexes that are here, 1, 2, not hill, but 3 or 4. They have to take 2 of the 4, so they're going to concentrate their efforts here and then see which way they wanted to go, here or here. Probably go here and then here. There's only 3 turns, so that's a stretch. Though it's 10 hexes, so I don't know. Boy, that's blurry. Anyway, so the first shot's going to be here. So that's kind of the focus there. The Russians are going to just kind of shift around. I think my initial thought was I wanted to swarm the tanks, but then I spread them all out for defense. These guys kind of controlling the flanks here. I'm going to send these tanks up here, take out these 3 as quick as I can, and then move those infantry up. What else? I think that's it for now. And here we go. We're going to do the first die. Oh, this is a concentrated fire, which is +2 to there. So his fire zone is then that hex only, which is kind of cool. That's a neat concept. Okay, turn 1 down in my first playing of Panzer Command. The GTS father, mother, parent, grandparent. I think it's just the parent, because after this came GTS. And then company scale. So, anywho. Yeah, so first turn down, the Germans did not take a victory hex yet. I think that's not a good sign, because they only have 3 turns to take 2. And I'm not really sure how they're going to do this. So there's a pretty cool feature where if you have 2 dispatch points, at any time, if you have an available segment chip, like right now there's 1 in here, and there's 2 and 3 in here for the Russians. At any time, I don't have it right now. You can buy it and say, I'm going to interrupt for 2 points. So it's kind of like the GTS where you can pay 2 and get it in the cup that turn. Here it's a guaranteed. So there's a lot more flexibility in that case. I think that's kind of really what how you're supposed to start the game. I didn't. The German gets 2 to start. I spent the 2 to put 2 counters, 1 each, for the next turn. So the 5th and the 4th will get to go twice, because everyone gets to go in that counter. You don't save the last one. But I think what's supposed to happen is the Germans are probably supposed to spin 2 to immediately activate one of the things, probably the armor division, so they can get up there, and then they'll get a second turn that first turn, so that they would have had 2 full turns. And that's a full turn, so you can spend direct command shits on them. I think that's kind of what you're probably supposed to do to clear them out. I did take out the BA-64 vehicle. That did get eliminated, but that's just a minor kind of like a blocking thing in my case. The Germans started to scoot around here just to keep them occupied. Sorry for the glare. This Russian's keeping him in check. The Germans did have I'll show you that in a minute. These are all these north of here are just there. The game's here. You're trying to take these, count this hex here, here, 2 of the 4. They suppressed this guy, and I forgot you could rally from suppression. This guy did, and didn't do anything. These, oh, sorry, let me zoom in. Anyway, I'm having fun, just like GTS. It's kind of cool. They looked at this little introductory scenario. Not a bad concept, actually, to maybe introduce some GTS, maybe in another magazine game. This could be a magazine game. I kind of like this introductory scenario because there's no transport, no artillery, no airstrikes, no entrenchments. Because entrenchments are good. I was looking to do that for them. And it's just real basic. It's pulling the counters, it's spinning points, getting points, etc., etc. I'm excited to try the other stuff. I thought maybe I'd just play this one and call it good, but I think I'm going to, I definitely want to try at least one advanced scenario. This is an imaginary scenario. I mean, I guess they're all imaginary, but this is just a practice training scenario. The other, I think the advanced ones are all based on kind of real battles around, it's the Cheer River, somewhere up there, I think up there. So anyway, then turn one, Panzer Command, the introductory scenario, 1984. I was 14 when this came out. This would have blown my mind as a kid. I would have had no clue how to play this. I mean, I couldn't figure out GTS when I was 45 or whatever the age was. I tried to figure out GTS 3 or 4 times. This is easier than GTS. I feel like the rules are pretty well written, and it's definitely helped me knowing GTS. Like I'm just like skimming stuff to make sure I'm getting the differences and the nuances. I think I am, but you never know. That's downside of playing solo. Loving the new dice tower with the D10s, working great. Love D10s. Pretty simple terrain. Similar GTS type with the, the crest don't block. That's not crest, I'm sorry. The elevation changes don't affect viewing into other things unless there's a town at a lower elevation or a crest. So, anywho, it's just really fun. You got to keep guys kind of units close together because of command radius. If you want to, do a second command, that sort of thing. That's a little bit more loose. Yeah, it's basically if you want to do a second command, because you can do a direct command, even if they're out of command. I don't know, I have to check GTS on that one. All right, that's that. Real fun. Sorry, that was much more longer video than I hoped for. So that's it, Panzer Command. We'll see it. We'll come back after number 2. Okay, turn 2 is over. Nice run of counters there. So the Germans going to be hurting this next turn because they're low on dispatch points. Low on command points. They do have 2, though. Yeah, I'll be able to load up. I have 2, so they'll be able to use it to get the armored guys going. All right, so over on this side to get this second objective. Oh, well, first, they did take that objective in the first counter pull. The independent regiment got it, and these guys went in here. The 222s went in there and took it in close combat, close assault, ran those troops out of there. Good on them. See all the tanks have abandoned these guys because this is all happening over here. We got German tank here, here, and here. This guy wants to rally to... Ooh. Should I rally that guy off there? I think I will. Let's see. Is it automatic or do I have to roll for it? I got to roll for it. And I got it. So I'm going to spend another point and get that off there. All right. So... Anyway, this going on here, this close assault, nothing happened. They lost cohesion. These guys are suppressed, so they can try to rally that off there. The tanks all move from here to go over here and start taking these guys on. An interesting thing. This guy was in here. This tank was, so close assault. This guy was in his fire zone, but it says you can do an opportunity fire when they do a move action. An assault is not, I don't think, considered a move action. In the current game, that would have impacted his troop quality check to go in. Actually, you know what? I don't know if tanks in GTS have to take troop quality checks to go in. They don't. A tank doesn't in this one. Interesting. Okay, so who knows? Anyway, they couldn't fire on him. So now I just got these guys up here. So, and he took a cohesion, and he cannot rally that off. Well, it's similar to GTS. This guy went around here. Maybe if I can get in there with him, just to give some defense in there. I think these guys are one-steppers anyway, but it's a step. This guy's kind of down here by himself. Anyway, so they're swarming this one. These guys have taken it. This guy finally lost a step. Look at all these concentrated fires. I'm spending a lot of energy and time. The infantry is not going to get over here. The infantry might be able to get over here if I get them, but I'll pull... And I gotta be honest, I'm not sure I want to fire the tanks in here because these guys have a 6 and the other infantry has a 5 rating compared to a 3. And so they're actually able to do more with their heavy infantry and stuff. I guess firing Fausts and whatever. It seems It seems interesting to me. There is a penalty. I would be curious how you all see this. Combat modifiers. -1 per intervening hex. -1 per intervening hex. When they're adjacent, I'm not counting it. I start counting it like if this tank, if this guy wants to, well, he can only fire one as well. That's interesting. If this martyr has a range of 3, forget the crest at the moment. So I'm counting this. So he starts at 3. If he's firing adjacent, it's 3, 2, 1. Or if he's firing here, it'd be -1. So it's -1, -2. You can look at it either way, I guess. But I've been going 3, 2, 1. -1. Because it's an intervening hex. I feel confident I'm doing that right. Because I wouldn't really penalize him for firing adjacent. It's just that these infantry are so strong firing adjacent. I'm like, what the heck? So, anti-tank guns, because these are companies, so they could have an anti-tank gun in there with them, I guess. But on the attack? Anywho, all right, fun stuff. Enjoying it. The Germans might do it. They might take it. We'll see. Again, this is similar to GTS. A lot of it's about sequencing of things, like putting these on here and then assaulting. But you got to pay for it. All right, cool. That's into turn 2. We'll see you at the end of turn 3. Bye. All right, into game. It's a German victory. I actually got a German victory here. Can't believe it. But check it out. This guy was just getting slaughtered here. It got down to 2 cohesion hits and 2 cohesion hits on the last step and suppressed. And they couldn't quite make it happen. The Soviets had the last turn to make it happen by this guy here. This little light armored unit, wheeled unit went in there to try to take care of the remnants of that German battalion or company. So let me start over. German Panzer company, and couldn't quite make it happen. They took a cohesion hit. They took cohesion hits when they tried. These guys got this one. They stood their ground. So pretty exciting. All based on last chit draws. The Russians had the last chance. The Germans did get another draw here. Nope. That was over here. The infantry can't do much in this scenario. They move 1 hex. There's no transporting. This is the intro scenario again, so that comes in the next set. But it's fun. Fun seeing the roots of GTS. I was thinking about playing the next advanced scenario. I think I'm gonna bag it up a little better than it was bagged. Bag them up by regiments here, regiments, and do that. So here's some thoughts here. So I'm just gonna go through. I have like 11 points here, but let's go through it real quick. So it's interesting. Some things you do here that stood out to me. I think some of these are different than GTS. Not all of them. This first one definitely is. One, you record the HQ locations by saying it's on this unit here. It's on A or B. And so that's kind of interesting. I like how they changed that, so you don't have to do that. Kind of makes it nicer. It's not a big deal. It's just something. But the opposing side doesn't know who your HQ is, and they can attack them. It can impact it. And it can become obvious at some point. It seems like the HQs don't have quite as much impact. Those are rules that I'm kind of iffy on GTS. Like I'd have to look them up right now to see the differences, but slight differences here on how HQs work and whether or not you can do stuff in or out of command. I do not know what that's about. 500 meter hexes, 1 to 2 hour turns. The initiative is interesting. That's a little different. You don't do that in here. So each turn, I think it can probably change in scenarios. This scenario, Germans always has initiative, which determines when you buy your dispatch point. So that was a different thing here. Whoops, that's not going to do any good. Let's zoom out here to 1. So you can buy... You don't get to buy dispatch points at the beginning, but you can spend them at the beginning. So you can spend 2 to pull someone immediately. You can do that. The non-initiative person goes first. Initiative goes second. So you can kind of get a clue what your opponent's doing. Similar. I am forgetting something here about when you buy things. But initiative is basically seeing when people are doing stuff. It's an order thing like that. Otherwise, you draw the counter as normal. So it doesn't mean you're going first. It just means, oh, yeah. Before a counter is drawn, you can also pay 2 to play a regiment chit immediately if it's available in this. Available, I keep on doing this, and it's not doing you any good. If you have the available chits and you're unavailable, and you're supposed to put these in the unavailable, but I mean, it's the same thing. I just like seeing the order they go in here. So we had 4 Germans go in a row, then 3 Russian, German, Russian. Kind of a fun way to end. Kind of wish it went back and forth, but it didn't. And that's the cool thing about this system. Anyway, if I spend 2 dispatch points at any time before you draw the next chit, you can go. But the non-initiative player gets, while the game's going, the initiative player gets to go first, and then the non-initiative player. So it changes that. And then in some instances, the non-initiative goes first. So you can kind of see what they're spending points on. Okay, I know that was confusing. I apologize. In this scenario, the German command radius was less. There's some blades that would have been nice. I can see there's some things. I guess I can see why it kind of maybe didn't fly. I'm just a little surprised because it's quite amazingly fun. I got to think in 84, this was pretty unique. There wasn't, I think this might have been, if this wasn't the first chip pull, it was one of the first. But definitely different with the way you buy the dispatch. I mean, not only did you have chip pull, but then you're buying dispatch points and direct command tracks and things like that. And you can tell they were kind of building it towards a system. I think I said this in another video. So if I did, sorry, or another one of my turns here. It's been a while since I finished up here. I'm just a little surprised it didn't take off, but also not surprised because it was quite different and maybe not as much control as people wanted. But man, seeing what GTS has become, this is pretty cool because this is one scenario, or not one scenario, but several scenarios, one map. And I think this would be, I think more GTS games like this would be great. And this is the Battle Cheer, which is like so many battles or games have come out about that lately. It's crazy. You only get 1 dispatch point per turn. So they are expensive. You don't get to buy them like you can in GTS. So you got to wait and gather those things up. Everyone gets to go in a turn. You don't save the last chit. That's pretty cool. So you know that's going to happen. So that's 1 less friction point done. Direct command, extra, different action. I don't know what that note's about. Independents don't necessarily have an HQ. They use the main HQ, so they're not always in command. So that's kind of adds some freedom for their movement, which is kind of cool. But you don't get to activate them on every regiment like you can in the other one. Concentration fire, which is pretty cool. It's these little aiming chits here. So you would mark it almost like acquired fire and ASL. You had to put an A on here and put an A over here, and that becomes their fire zone. So I can put it out here, which I did at one point, like over here, whatever they can see. And then that's their fire zone. So you're kind of blocking movement, so you can kind of direct people. But if they go through it, then when they outfire, they get some extra points for that. Which is kind of a neat way of getting a couple extra points. Again, sequence of play is important. Like I had someone attack someone with concentrated fire in their first action, which put the +2 on there. And then when they tried to assault the next turn, that +2 was already on there. You can't, adding that +2 is an action. So that's cool. And suppression they can only rally, and you can rally in a fire zone. So that's similar to GTS. It was just fun seeing similarities, some of the changes. I mean, this basic thing, I kind of wish GTS had this basic. Someone would say, hey, here's just the basics of points. It might be interesting to design a scenario or two, like say, here's some points, and just have a division against a division. Or something like that. I have to look at a GTS. Now, I guess Counter-Strike kind of does that, but it takes some of the, Like you couldn't use transport in this, or artillery, or air attacks. There's a lot you couldn't use in the basics. I mean, they make basic. I don't want to use the same word. Basically, they make basic scenarios by just not having assets available in some of the other games. You don't really say it as a basic scenario. They just it just is a basic scenario. But I like this one as kind of a learning scenario. It's definitely winnable. I think a lot of the things I was reading is people couldn't win as the Germans. It's pretty tough. I mean, for sure. A lot of it's shit draw. I think I did everything right. But anyway, this turn has gone on a long time, 8 minutes. This whole video has gone a long time. Really fun. If you have Panzer Command, give it a shot, especially the intro scenario. The rules are pretty straightforward. The complex ones do get a little bit more involved with transporting and artillery. But it would have been fun to have transport for the infantry because they could barely do anything. So this is an imaginary scenario. The next one is a part of the actual battle. And that was Panzer Command, the Gateway to Stalingrad, Fall 42, Spring 43. And I feel good about playing this, even more so than playing CSS and GTS, because I felt like this was much closer. And it's like different, and I don't know. CSS, I was concerned about getting it confused with GTS, so I kind of have... well, I sold it all off, honestly. But if I play a CSS one now, I think it might be better because I know GTS better. But this one definitely felt more close to GTS, and also far enough away where it's like, it's very different, especially this basic scenario. So I'm not too worried about mixing up rules there, because I got to kind of go over the GTS rules anyway. So that's that. We'll talk to you. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you. Bye.